Joining us on the podcast today is a two-time All-American at BYU and a man instrumental in making the 2022 SoCal Pro Circuit happen. Welcome onto the show, Bruce Kleege. Bruce, pleasure to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it is my pleasure, and so many different questions for you, but the place I want to start is with the SoCal Pro Circuit, and we here at Cracked Racquet so fortunate to be able to broadcast that action to tennis fans everywhere. We'll have our championship Sunday, semifinal Saturday coverage continuing next week for all of you, the start of the 3-week Los Angeles stretch. The question I have for you, what led you to get involved with this SoCal Pro Circuit? Why was it important for you to be a part of this series?
Well, I played tennis. I played on the Pro Tour for a number of years, and I haven't played tennis for quite a long time until my kids now are 15 years old. And so when I saw they hit with a number of people that are just out of college, a number of young players that I always wondered, why are they coaching right now? Why aren't they out on the tennis circuit? And the reasons were pretty tough. It's very difficult to get a foothold in the tennis tour nowadays. If you're graduating from college, you need to have points to get into the lowest level of tournaments. When I got out of college, the first thing I did, I played a thing called the satellite tournament, and they had those back then. That was our doorstep into the tour right there. You'd play 4 tournaments and you'd play a Masters, and then how you finished on all 5 of those tournaments would determine how many points you got. So if it was a $25,000 tournament, if you won the whole circuit, you'd get probably 20 points or so. If you came in 30th, you'd probably get 1 point. But at least it was some way to start. And they don't have those anymore. Now they just have $15,000, $25,000, $100,000 tournaments, which you can't even get into the qualifying on unless you do have a wild card or some other means to do it. So I saw all these pros that should be out there trying to play. They weren't doing it because it was too expensive. There was nowhere for them to go, and the money was pretty good at teaching. And so they're defaulting back to teaching instead of giving it a shot on the Pro Tour. Now, I just didn't want anybody when they're 40 years old to look back and say, geez, I wish I had given it a shot and tried to play. And that's what I saw happening. So I went and talked to a friend of mine, Lorne Kuehl, and Lorne said, how do I put something like this together? I want a satellite tournament again. I want to have these kids I wanted them to have a chance to play on the tour. And Lorne put me in touch with the USTA, and then we went to the ATP, and then finally the Southern California Tennis Association liked the concept. But they wanted to change it from a satellite type of event to individual $15,000 tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Why they do that? Because I still think they're missing out on people that can't even get into the $15,000 events. But we're going to talk to them and maybe get that changed down the road. But that was it. It was just to fill a need that I saw out there to help these kids give it a shot on the tour. And instead of just going straight into teaching or what other work they might want to do.
And I want to go, there was so much there, and I appreciate, again, the candidness in your answer and taking us through the history. I grew up on stories of the satellite tour, and you mentioned the 4-event sequence leading to a Masters event. I think one of the key ingredients for the satellite tour, and if you don't mind expanding on it here, all 4 of those events would be in relatively similar areas, right? I am from Michigan. I know they used to have satellite events in, say, West Bloomfield, maybe Midland, then maybe Chicago, some sort of series of events where it's all within a reasonable travel distance from one event to another. That's another key ingredient in this as well, right? Minimizing those expenses. How valuable was that to you at the start of your career? And, is that part of this idea for the SoCal Pro Circuit, is all of these events in one location?
Well, cost is tennis is a very expensive sport. Mm-hmm. And the way have it laid out right now. I think there's only 6 futures tournaments in the United States right now. And to play those, you have to go to maybe San Antonio, Texas, and then maybe 3 weeks later, you have to go to Chicago, and then maybe you have to fly to San Francisco. Well, the cost to do that for people just starting out without a job is just prohibitive. And so the satellite circuit, it was a way that now the first one I played was in the Missouri Valley, it was called. And I played, the first tournament was in Kansas City. And then you went from Kansas City to maybe St. Joe, Missouri. But they were all in the same area here where somebody had a car and you stuck 6 people in a car and you traveled with them. Just gave housing out. You stayed with families. You got to know people. They become more involved with the sport. And I think it worked out great for everybody right there. But that was a way to do it with minimizing the cost, because cost is the big problem is one of the biggest problems that we have out there.
No, certainly. And for these players, and I imagine for you and your experience, what another benefit of having these events in the same locations, it's just easier to practice. It's easier to say, hey, you're playing these 6 events, I'm playing these 6 events. You want to be practice partners for the 6 weeks, whatever it may be. And to your point, and Chris Boyer, instrumental in getting the SoCal Pro Circuit off the ground, sent me these numbers, from May to September in 2021, there were 9 men's ITF Pro Circuit events. During that same time in Europe, there were 102. That's just an unacceptable disparity if we want American tennis to be able to compete. And one of the bright spots, certainly, of this SoCal Pro Circuit, not only the men's singles and doubles action, you have women's singles and doubles on the same site. In terms of, again, and I know it's a similar question to what I asked you at the start, but the financial commitment it takes and, again, being willing to invest in this grassroots level of tennis, why was that so important to you?
Well, again, I didn't want somebody to be 40 years old that went through all the junior programs and practice 3-5 hours a day for their whole life to have to default into teaching and not pursue their dream. This is a way for somebody to pursue their dream, at least have a shot. And I think we've accomplished a lot of that the way it is right now. We'd like to refine it, maybe go into satellite type of event also. But when I look at it today, and I've talked to a lot of the players, they get 1 ticket. That's the San Diego. They can stay here for 4 weeks, and they've got 60 other people to practice with at a very high level, which improves their game tremendously, and they have a shot of playing these tournaments right here, all in one place. A lot of the people have housing with families in this area right here, and we'd like to expand that even more. And that's important because the housing costs you a lot of money, especially in the summertime in San Diego. So the cost is the big thing right here. And I think by having them in the same geographic area, it worked out. Now, I think it was important for us to go up to 6 tournaments instead of just having 3 in San Diego. Because we can include Los Angeles. Now, Los Angeles is only, an hour and a half away from San Diego. It's very easy for people to get from San Diego to there. So now when you think about it, they have 1 ticket to San Diego, 1 ticket back out. And for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, they're in an area with 60 other people to play with and get excellent practice and have an opportunity to pursue their dream. That's what we're doing.
Hour away if it's 4 a.m., 3 hours away if it's 4 p.m., Los Angeles to San Diego. But no, I completely agree with you. And, again, I'm curious, and you're a former 2-time All-American, standout at BYU. Shout out to the former, 75-76 conference champs, I believe, if my memory is correct. And, I'm curious, in your mind, what role does college tennis play in helping to grow this sport moving forward in this country?
Well, I guess it's our minor leagues, right? In
Sure.
the United States leagues. They don't have a minor leagues in Europe and South America, Australia, that sort of thing. They start out at 18 years old. They go from high school and they just stick them on the tour. I mean, the Australians were notorious for kids starting out at 16, 17. They'd take a one-way ticket to Europe and you just stayed there until you made it or didn't make it. That was it. I remember playing Pat Cash, at 16 years old, or some of these other players, 17 years old. That's the way it was back there. So in America, college tennis still means something. And but what it does, it takes 4 years away from the tour where the rest of the people are playing on the minor events, and they're trying to build up their points and that sort of thing. So our minor events are college tennis right now. And, my personal opinion is that, we have too many foreigners that play on all of our college teams. It drives me crazy when I see that, taxpayers in the United States will have one player or two players from the United States and the other six or so are from somewhere else. I'm not sure why we have it that way. I think that we should probably adjust that a little bit. I see the need for foreign players, but I also see the need for more spots for American players themselves. But college tennis is super, super important. You get very good coaching in most of the schools right now. You get to play with 6 or 7 people or 8 people that are pretty competitive with you every single day. So it grows your game tremendously. Does it grow it more than actually going on the circuit? I don't know. It's an individual decision. But I highly recommend college tennis. There's any substitute for it.
No, the answer would be because the level of play of the international players raises the level of college tennis everywhere. You look at guys like Cam Norrie, Kevin Anderson, Joe Salisbury, world number 1 in doubles right now, all guys who came from abroad who took the time to develop in college tennis and are now top players in the world, and proving that's a pathway to the pros. I would imagine it would encourage Americans who are iffy about the college tennis pathway or are just, again, unsure about their tennis future, go play college tennis, get exposed to that level of play. And to your point, certainly you learn whether A, it's a developmental path, or B, you get a fantastic education. And it's the best of both worlds at that point. Now, it's funny. You mentioned some of the players you had to play in the past. I'm going to take us back to the 1984 Wimbledon. Final round qualifying. 17-year-old had never played a Wimbledon main draw before by the name of Boris Becker. Comes up against Bruce Kleege in that final round of qualifying. Talk me through a match against young Boris.
Well, I went out there pretty confident. He's playing a very young player right there, but, he walked on the court with Ian Tiriac as his coach. Ian Tiriac is just a very big name in tennis, and it scares you really just having him on the side. Now, this is back when nobody really had coaches. Maybe Borg had coach, and that was about it. But here, this young kid comes on the court with Jan Tiriac in the sideline right there. And instead of being super confident about the match, I was a little hesitant about it right there. And now he served and volleyed as good as anybody does right there. But maybe a couple nervous points, really all that determines the winner in those type of matches, or even the matches today. And so, unfortunately, I lost that match. And but it was just another experience. And I've lost matches before, and willing to play again. So just another stepping stone. That's all.
No, a lot of fun matches on the resume. I think, and I happen to have a friendship now with Texas A&M men's tennis head coach Steve Denton. I see your win in Newport, 7-6 in the third. That's a heck of a win. I think people forget how good Steve Denton was.
Steve Denton was unbelievable. He teamed up. He used to go to school with a person named Kevin Curran. Kevin Curran was one of the best players in the world at the time, finals at Wimbledon, that sort of thing. But anyway, he formed a doubles relationship with Kevin, and they hooked up with a coach named Bob Brett. Bob Brett was just an absolute super home run coach. He got everything that you had in you, he got it out of you right there. And he turned Steve into one of the best players in the world, I guess top 10 in the world right there, with a serve that was, lightning speed. So I had played Steve 2 or 3 times before and had a lot of success with him. So obviously the confidence I had going into that match, I had that past experience of beating him, even though he was ranked 10 in the world. But that's, I think if you beat somebody one time, you feel a little more confident the next time. I don't care if they're ranked number 10 in the world or number 400 in the world. You still have that going for you. But that was was on grass at Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Great tournament.
I can hear it in your voice, your affinity for doubles. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Why is doubles not marketed the way it perhaps once was? What is doubles missing at this point? Because when I watch it, I still am fascinated by it. I think in a college tennis match in particular, the energy of the doubles point might be my favorite energy of any form of tennis. Are you, again, am I on to something? It does sound like you may have a passion for doubles.
Oh, I think you're right on it. I mean, if you watch tennis, if you watch a singles tennis match today, the most of the points are played from the baseline. They're forehand to forehand, backhand to backhand. My gosh, you can have 30 point rallies, 50-point rallies, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get into a doubles match and people are nose to nose at the net right there, hitting the ball as hard as they can. The action is incredible. And I just think it's a faster game. It's more exciting. And I wish more people paid attention to it. I think the top players are needed in doubles to make the doubles a more exciting game, maybe, or bring more people to the thing. But it's very difficult to get them to play doubles when they're being offered so much money to play singles, and they don't want to jeopardize how they do in that sport. But no, doubles is unbelievable and so fast and so interesting for even the people that don't understand tennis.
Yeah, the reaction time, just the creativity, the improvisation. It's quicker. It's thrilling. I thoroughly enjoy it. Where are you with world team tennis, out of curiosity?
Well, I wish there was a way to make world team tennis work.
Yeah.
And I think I've watched some here in San Diego, the Aviators. Is a great team. They've tried all kinds of different ways to get people to come and watch, and they've had a lot of success in it. I don't know. Something's missing in the sport in that field. I don't know what it is, but it would be great if we could expand tennis into some other format like World Team Tennis. I think that's Billie Jean's baby right there, and it would be great if we could figure out how to make that work. I don't think it's worked 100% so far, but I think it's had some successes. And I think, tennis evolves. We're looking for different ways to expose people that don't play tennis to tennis. And, maybe it's some combination of world team tennis and college tennis. Maybe that's the answer. I don't really know. Get the girls and the boys team tennis in college. I did it. We did it once when I was at BYU, and we played Arizona in a trial thing, and it was fantastic. It was inside, and the atmosphere was great, yelling, screaming, completely different than a regular tennis match. So I hope there's a way to make it work, but if not, maybe it'll morph into something that does work.
You talked about college tennis as a minor league system, top 10 players, however many teams there are in World Team Tennis, men, women, you send the top players all to World Team Tennis, and yeah, you integrate the two levels. I absolutely think there's a path forward there. With all that said, again, SoCal Pro Circuit, still 3 weeks to go. We've got the Los Angeles stretch coming up. Obviously, I'm a major believer in the level of play. I know how fantastic it is, but if our listeners won't believe me, maybe they'll believe you, Bruce. Why should people tune into this event if you're in the SoCal area? Why should you come out to one of these matches?
Well, but I think the quality of tennis is something most people don't get to see. The quality of this tennis is pretty much the same tennis that's being played on TV right now over at Queens or Eastbourne or in Wimbledon. Maybe there's a few points difference, a little less consistent type things, but the quality, they're serving 130, 40 miles an hour out there. They're smacking the ball as hard as anybody can on any of those things. If you could come out and watch these matches right there, I think you would be sold on this concept right here. And you'll see that these players are as good as the people, are close to as good as the people playing in the Grand Slam events, and deserve this opportunity to try to compete with them so that they can see if they can go head to head with them. They're that good. I mean, we had in San Diego in 3 tournaments, we were able to give 60 wildcard spots to local players here. We've got players that people see at the tennis courts every single day and watch them play, grow up, and that sort of thing. Here they can see them compete with the best players there are. And it's an opportunity through these wild card system for them to get a chance to actually compete, get their first points, that sort of thing right there. Whether it's men, whether it's women, it's been extremely successful for us. So many players in the first 3 tournaments have received their first ATP point by playing in these tournaments right here. And even in qualifying, if they win matches, they get ITF points. ITF points are just a step below the ATP points. I don't know how many yet. We're gonna go through and see, calculate everything. But I'm sure there's out of probably a dozen maybe even as many 15 people that receive wild cards actually receive some kind of points, whether they're ATP points or ITF points. Very invaluable for them to go forward. In some cases, I think we've actually helped somebody where they were going to go back to college, maybe to graduate school, or maybe start teaching, and they got a couple of points now. Now they're going to give it a shot a little bit more. They're going to go to LA and try to get some more points. They're going to maybe go to Europe and try to expand their thing, but they wouldn't do it if they didn't have this right here. So you're getting the best of both worlds. First of all, the matches are free, and you're not going to see this type of match for free anywhere. These kids are trying harder than any pros ever try because it means so much to them. And so, I highly encourage people to come out and watch. You're not going to be disappointed, and you can follow your own local players at the clubs that they're playing in, how they compete with the pros, how good they really are.
Absolutely. Some people may have enjoyed watching August Holmgren play at the ATP San Diego event last season. He plays in the NCAA singles final this year. He wins an ATP SoCal Pro Circuit title, his first of his pro career. And yeah, you just feel like he is going to climb up the rankings. Players like Duarte Valle, McKenna Jones coming off of outstanding, prolific college careers. They're using this as the springboard moving forward. And to your point, we had a 3-hour, 45-minute final between Nate Ponwith and Duarte Valle. It's been really good tennis. It's been delightful. And so obviously looking forward to continuing our coverage next weekend. We've got 3 more events in the Los Angeles area to go, and we are well aware none of that would have happened without the support of people like you, Bruce. So immensely grateful for you taking the time to chat with us today, your support in getting this SoCal Pro Circuit off the ground as well.
Well, I think you have to give a lot of credit to Chris Boyer from the Southern California Tennis Association and Trevor Groneman right there, and the support staff at the WTA too. This is a collaborative effort here. This is not a USTA tournament as such. This is the Southern California Tennis Association combining with the USTA, combining with the ATP, combining with the WTA. This is a top-notch circuit right here, and it's everybody's work together that's really made it as a success we have. And I really hope and I really think that we can take this model and put it in 10 different sections of the country so that we have 60 tournaments a year instead of 9. And I'm hoping that's where it goes from here. And so every section can have wild cards for their players in their section right there. They can watch their players grow, and we put more people out there pursuing their dreams. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, we appreciate being able to play a small part in that as well. So Bruce, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. Again, be safe, be healthy, and enjoy the final 3 weeks of the SoCal Pro Circuit.
Thank you very much.